From Lambert High School and Miss Mastrangelo's lit class, this is Cereal, but like the food.
One story told week by week. This is our debut episode as well as our final episode. I'm Sydney Colin.
I'm Keeley Casalou.
And I'm Gillian Mathauer.
We will be reviewing old characters under a new light. I know that we may have already touched on these characters, but we've taken the time to reevaluate these key people, and we may have found something interesting.
Keeley and I both reviewed Adnan Syed because we believe he is guilty and in need of another look.
I'm going to be talking about Don Clinadinst because he wasn't investigated very thoroughly, and there's definitely something fishy about him.
Our first topic we reviewed goes into detail about the case and has vital evidence proving Adnan's guilt.
As we were reviewing the key points of this podcast, one thing stood out. Though Jay's story may not have been shifting and changing throughout the numerous trials and interrogation, one thing that distinctly agrees with Jay's narrative is the Nisha call. In episode 12, Sarah states, "The Nisha call is the one that happens at 3:32 p.m. on January 13th. It's to that girl that Adnan has been flirting with. Not only does it put Adnan together with his phone in the middle of the afternoon, it puts Adnan together with Jay in the afternoon." Episode 12. This evidence is so groundbreaking to the case that it is hard to ignore. Adnan said with near certainty that he had not had his phone at the time of the Nisha call. However, only Adnan knew Nisha, not Jay. Therefore, only Adnan would call her. Some may argue that it was a call made by accident, a harmless butt dial, but the call lasted for 2 minutes and 22 seconds. This is an implausible amount of time for a cell phone to be ringing. This call is one of the worst pieces of evidence against Adnan, for there is almost no way to get around the fact that Jay would not have known who Nisha was, nor would he call her.
Yeah, Adnan said he was at track practice, so it's pretty sketchy that the call would take place at that time.
Another compelling piece of evidence against Adnan is how Adnan asked Hay for a ride after school. Though this may seem like not a big deal, Jay claims that this is where and how Adnan planned to kill Hay. In episode 2 of this podcast, Sarah explains, "They passed each other in the hallway and I was with him, and I remember somebody saying, or him saying something about, 'Can you give me a ride after school?' This was Kathy. She was a friend of Adnan and Hay at the time, and she remembers this encounter. Many other people that Adnan and Hay were friends with remembered Adnan saying something about a ride after school with Hay. Now you may be able to look this over as a misremembrance or over something that did not seem important in the moment, but the most incriminating piece of evidence regarding the matter of the ride came from Adnan himself. Adnan was talking to detectives for the first time, and while he was recounting the day, he said that he had asked Hay for a ride that day. However, the very next time he talks to the detectives, he reverses this claim, saying that he would have known better than to ask Hay for a ride because she had to pick up her cousin. Why would you change your story of such a key point in the story unless you realize how important the simple matter of the car ride was? It simply does not make sense unless he realized that was all the court needed to formulate a place and time for the murder.
He just forgot because it didn't seem important at the time.
Yeah, but same time, why would he claim to have asked for a ride if she could never give anyone rides anywhere?
We touched on this in episode 12 already. However, we believe it needs another inspection, to be sure. Adnan and Hay had been dating on and off for months, and their feelings were very susceptible to change frequently. In episode 12, Sarah and Dana explain, the first week of school in 1999, Adnan was absent 2 out of 4 days. Then Friday was a snow day, so maybe he doesn't get it, that he's really lost Hay until the first or second week of school. Maybe that's when the emotions hit him. Since Adnan had been out of school so much, he may not have realized that Hay had moved on from him until he got back. This would have been very close to the time that she went missing. Adnan simply did not understand the depth of feelings between Hay and Don until he got back to school mid-January. Then he killed her. This explains why though they broke up a long time before she went missing, Adnan could still have been dealing with those fresh emotions.
Let's move on to Don. He was Heyman Lee's boyfriend less than a month before she was murdered. Their first real date was on January 1st. He was introduced in episode 2, where Sarah Koenig was investigating Hay and Adnan's breakup. However, he was cleared pretty quickly because of his solid alibi. In episode 12, we are told that Don's alibi is confirmed by his mom, who was the manager at the lens craft store he was working at that night. In episode 12 of Serial, Koenig says, Don's alibi was solid, but Don's manager at the Hunt Valley store was his mom, so that doesn't look great. Don said he was at the Hunt Valley store picking up a shift for a friend, but why would he pick up a shift for someone at a different store? It seemed a little strange, so I checked it out. Apparently, the two stores are only about 25-minute drive from each other, so it does work out. However, it seems pretty sketchy that on the night of the murder of his girlfriend, Don was working at a store that was far enough away from the crime for him not to be able to do it. and the only person that confirmed that he was there was a relative.
I agree that Don's alibi was not as solid as it seemed in the beginning, because even more evidence was found that the manager of the store claimed to be working at that night of the 13th was managed by his stepmother.
Another piece of evidence about Don. He testified at Adnan's trial. Kevin Urich, who was on the prosecution, had talked to Don after the trial, both trials actually, about how he didn't make Adnan sound criminal enough. Maybe there wasn't enough evidence against Don. He did have an airtight alibi, after all. Maybe the prosecutor told him something like, "Look, Don, we can either take you to trial and try our best to put you away from this crime that we don't have a whole lot of evidence for, or we could have you testify against it, Don, and he gets locked up in your place." Sarah tells us in episode 3 that Kevin Urich was yelling at Don. Don says, "When I say he was yelling at me, he was literally yelling about not making Adnan sound creepy."
Are you saying that the prosecution was pressuring Don to talk bad about Adnan?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, let's look at some pro Adnan. Most people probably do not believe he did it because of Jay. Jane changed his story many times, and it makes him seem a bit unreliable, and he also did not call the cops right away. But we uncovered what we think is the real reason behind Jay's fibs, and it leads back to his girlfriend. When talking with Jay's old friend Chris, he mentioned how Jay was worried Adnan may try to hurt his girlfriend Stephanie. Chris also said if he had any weakness, it was Stephanie. He would move heaven and earth if it came to protecting Stephanie. End quote. So it could have been possible that Jay was lying and did not go straight to the cops because he was just trying to protect the person he loved the most. He may have not always acted like she was, but when it came to protecting her, Jay would do everything humanly possible.
Couldn't Jay have been protecting Stephanie from Adnan? Adnan may have threatened Stephanie if he went to the cops.
But wouldn't you still call the cops if you witnessed a murder?
Another argument for Adnan is, why hasn't he confessed after all these years? Well, according to doctors Charles Ewing, it's possible Adnan doesn't even remember doing it. He had the motive and the ability to kill her, and he could have amnesia from doing it. He doesn't remember hardly anything from the day, and it was full of occasions worth remembering. The doctor said people can go on a dissociative state where they're really psychologically not where they are physically. Probably half of the people I've evaluated who have killed other human beings have some degree of amnesia for what they've done. End quote. Adnan is not a bad guy, and many people have vouched for him, but it's possible for him to have committed and not remembered because his brain won't allow it.
Overall, we really don't know who killed Hay, but we do understand that the investigative team did not look at all the evidence correctly.
Based on the evidence we went over today, you may be questioning Don or Adnan or even Jay, but regardless of who you believe killed Heyman Lee, we can all agree that we may never know who killed her.
Thank you for tuning into our final episode of Serial, Suspicious Characters.